Pega was an ordinary girl navigating her monotone life. She always harbored a longing for warmth and companionship that pets could provide. Unfortunately, her stepmother's severe allergy to their hairs denied her that solace. Growing up as a lone child, the emptiness weighed heavily on her, making communications with the outside world a daunting task. The recent drop in her grades, highlighted by the call from teacher Smith, only added to the challenges she faced. Isolation became her constant companion, fueled by her love for creepy tales, earning her a reputation as a feared and unloved freak. A perception intensified by the lingering trauma of her parents' divorce. As Christmas approached, a time normally filled with joy and cheer, tensions in the Pega household increased. The usual discordant symphony of familial strife echoed through the walls, but she coped by drowning out the noise with creepypastas on her phone, stories that transported her to realms far removed from her own reality. Her father's sudden distance further fueled her growing sense of isolation, though she chose to endure the torment silently. On Christmas Eve, the present beneath the tree, wrapped in festive paper, seemed to foretell the promise of joy. As Pega unwrapped her gift, a prevailing disappointment lingered. The offerings were modest, the size of the packages not reflecting the magnitude of her eager anticipation. The first gift, handed to her by her father, held nothing more than a pair of socks, a seemingly thoughtless gesture from her stepmother. Disheartened, she observed as her stepmother received a beautiful adorned necklace, a stark contrast to the simplicity of her own gifts. The ritual of gift-giving continued, each package being distributed with a palpable excitement. Yet as the final package lay under the tree, bearing Pega's name, a sense of foreboding settled in. The package, small in size, held the potential to either make or break the building disappointment. As Pega tore open the wrapping, she discovered a bracelet within. Confusion flickered across her face as she slipped it onto her wrist, only to realize it wasn't intended for her. It was for her pet. Intrigued yet puzzled, Pega's curiosity heightened as her father presented a conspicuously large package. With an air of anticipation, he unveiled its contents. A naked cat. Whiskers was his name. The unexpected joy of his newfound companion filled Pega with excitement. As the days unfolded, Pega and Whiskers developed a bond that transcended the limitations of words. Whiskers, with his unpredictable antics and playful demeanor, became a source of solace and joy, filling the void that had persistently lingered within her. Nights were spent together, nestled in the warmth of her bed, the soft purring of Whiskers providing a comforting backdrop as she immersed herself in her favorite creepypasta. However, the serenity of these nights would soon be shattered on a late Thursday evening. Engrossed in the eerie trills emanating from her headphones, Pega felt a gentle push against her leg. Glancing down, she discovered Whiskers seeking attention. With a smile, she picked up the small feline and began to pet him, relishing the rhythmic purring that reverberated through the room. Minutes passed and the contentment settled like a cozy blanket over Pega. As she closed her eyes to drift into sleep, an unexpected intensity gripped the air. A penetrating glare, sharp as knife, pierced through her closed eyelids. Sensing an unsettling presence, Pega opened her eyes to find Whiskers standing on her bed, his gaze unyielding and fixated on her, like a predator assessing its prey. In a sudden, violent lunge, Whiskers transformed from a playful companion to a creature of malevolence, as his once innocent demeanor gave way to an ominous force. Claws unsheathed, he lunged towards Pega with ferocity that defied the boundaries of the natural world. The room, once haven of tranquility, transformed into a chaotic battleground. Pega, paralyzed by shock and fear, could only watch as Whiskers, now a harbinger of something sinister, unleashed a torrent of aggression. His movements were fluid, yet unnaturally swift, defying the laws of nature. With each calculated leap, he closed the distance between them, the air crackling with an otherworldly energy. The atmosphere, once filled with the soft hum of the bedtime serenity, now pulsated with a sense of impending doom. The room, bathed in the dim glow of the night, became the stage for an unsettling dance between predator and prey. In the blink of an eye, Whiskers descended upon Pega, his claws slashing through the air like dark tendrils, leaving Pega grappling with the horrifying reality that her once beloved companion had become a monster. The night, which had begun with whispers of comfort, now echoed with the guttural sounds of a struggle between life and enigmatic darkness. In the aftermath, the room returned to an eerie stillness, devoid of the chaotic energy that had briefly taken hold. The grotesque metamorphosis of Whiskers had claimed not only Pega's sense of security, but also the lives of her and her entire family. The haunting whispers linger in the air. If you're petting your cat, don't stop. The festive season was in full swing, and the streets were bustling with holiday cheer. Families were shopping for gifts, decorating homes, and preparing for Christmas Eve, the most magical night of the year. Among them was John, an 8-year-old boy with a heart full of anticipation. For months, he had been dreaming of getting a PS5 for Christmas, the latest and greatest gaming console. It was the talk of the town and the object of John's desire. However, as the holiday approached, John's hope dwindled. All the stores were sold out, and he was beginning to lose faith in getting his wish. His father, Michael, could see the disappointment in his son's eyes and vowed to find a way to make his dreams come true. One evening, Michael's friend Bob told him about a website where people could sell and buy things, including PS5s. Michael was intrigued and decided to give it a try. He downloaded the app and started searching for a listing. For days he searched without success. The website seemed to be full of either scammers or people selling their consoles for exorbitant prices. Michael was starting to lose hope when, just after 3 a.m. one night, a notification popped up on his phone. He groggily picked up his phone, only to be blinded by the sudden brightness. As his eyes adjusted, he saw a listing for the PS5. The price was reasonable, and the seller seemed legitimate. Michael's heart raced with excitement as he quickly bid on the listing. To his surprise, he was the highest bidder. The seller immediately contacted him, and they arranged to meet up in person to exchange the console for cash. Michael couldn't believe his luck. He had finally found a PS5 for John. As the holiday approached, Michael eagerly wrapped the PlayStation 5 in festive paper and placed it under the Christmas tree. The family gathered on Christmas Eve to open the presents. John was excited to see what he had received. He tore open the first present, but it wasn't the PS5. He opened the next present and the next, but still no PS5. Finally, John opened the last present. It was a large, beautifully wrapped box. He tore off the wrapping paper, and there it was, the PS5. John was overjoyed. He immediately plugged in the console and turned it on. As Michael sat in the living room, enjoying his beer, he noticed John sitting in a trance-like state in front of the TV. The game he was playing appeared to be glitchy and distorted, and the colors were swirling and changing in an unnatural way. Michael tried to lighten up the mood by joking, "Don't get glued to that thing, kid." But John didn't even flinch. A chill ran down Michael's spine as he realized that John was unresponsive. He approached his son cautiously and looked at the TV screen. The images were grotesque and disturbing, and John's eyes were vacant and lifeless. Michael tried to shake John awake, but he was frozen in place. Suddenly, the images on the screen became even more sinister. A dark figure emerged from the depths of the screen, its form slowly taking shape. It was a grotesque creature with razor-sharp claws and glowing red eyes. It lunged towards the screen, and Michael instinctively jumped back in horror. Michael tried to shield John from the creature, but it was too powerful. The creature grabbed John and pulled him into the screen, leaving behind only a trail of black smoke. Michael screamed in terror as he watched his son disappear into the darkness. The creature turned its attention to Michael, who was frozen in fear. It lunged at him, its claws rending the air as it tore towards him. Michael struggled to fight back, but the creature was too strong. He was thrown against the wall and the creature towered over him, its glowing eyes burning into his soul. Michael closed his eyes, bracing himself for the inevitable. But then, he felt a surge of strength coursing through his veins. He opened his eyes and saw the creature faltering, its grip on him weakening. He grabbed the creature's arm and used all his remaining strength to push it back. The creature stumbled and fell, losing its grips on John's soul. Michael seized the opportunity and slammed the creature against the wall again, causing it to screech in pain. He punched and kicked the creature with all his might, until finally it was defeated. Michael collapsed to the floor, exhausted and battered. He looked around the room, but the creature was gone. There was only the lingering smell of sulfur and the sound of John's fading screams. Michael rushed to the TV, but it was too late. John was gone, forever lost in the depths of the PS5. Michael was left alone, forever traumatized by the loss of his son. He held the PlayStation in his hands, a constant reminder of the horror that had befallen his family. The PlayStation now sat on a special shelf in Michael's house, a silent monument to his son's death. It was a chilling reminder that you should always be careful when buying stuff online. In the quiet town of Blackwood, where shadows clung to the trees and the wind whispered tales of forgotten secrets, lived Damien, a foster child who had known the ache of countless broken homes. As he approached his 18th birthday, Damien received a cryptic package containing a DNA testing kit, and a note that sent chills down his spine. "Uncover the legacy that binds you," it said. Upon reveling the unsettling truth that he carried 25% demon heritage, Damien sought guidance from Father Donovan, a priest who knew the darker corners of the supernatural realm. His foster parents, the Strouds, a seemingly ordinary couple who had taken him in after years of wandering the foster care system, were wary but willing to confront the unearthly revelation that now shadowed their lives. The Strouds, John and Elizabeth, were a couple known for their kindness and unwavering dedication to Damien. Despite the ominous cloud that hung over their foster son, they stood by him with a resilience that spoke of the deep bonds forged through adversity. Little did they know that their commitment would be tested in ways unimaginable. Led by Father Donovan, the trio ventured into Blackwood Forest, a place where the line between the natural and supernatural blurred. The ancient stone altar at the forest heart became the stage for a ritual that would either liberate Damien from his demonic ties or plunge them all into an abyss of darkness. As the incantation echoed through the eerie stillness, the atmosphere grew charged with malevolence. The Strouds stood by Damien, their faces etched with concern and determination. Yet as the ritual reached its crescendo, the demon within Damien rebelled against the constraints imposed upon it. The forest quivered and the Strouds felt the weight of an otherworldly force bearing down upon them. Elizabeth, the foster mother, collapsed under the strain, her eyes reflecting the terror of a soul caught in the grip of the supernatural. John, fueled by love and desperation, lunged at the encroaching darkness, fighting to protect the family he had built. Father Donovan's prayers became a desperate plea for divine intervention. In the chaos that ensued, the ritual teetered on the edge of a catastrophe. The demonic force, unleashed and unforgiving, claimed its toll. Elizabeth's life slipped away, leaving John to bear witness to the sacrifice demanded by their pursuits of the unknown. Father Donovan, beads of sweat on his brow, wrestled with forces beyond human comprehension, attempting to salvage what remained of the fractured ritual. In the aftermath, Blackwood Forest felt silent, mourning the tragedy that had unfolded beneath its ancient canopy. John, shattered by grief and guilt, cradled Damien in his arms, a son forever changed by the legacy of blood that now stained their lives. As the years passed, the Strouds carried the scars of the cursed ritual. Blackwood, a town haunted by its own secrets, bore witness to the fractured family grappling with the consequences of meddling with the supernatural. Damien, burdened by the demonic threats woven in his identity, struggled to find solace in the wake of his foster mother's sacrifice. Father Donovan, haunted by the shadows of that fateful day, whispered words of caution to those who dare to listen. Sometimes it's better to let your past stay in the past. The fog that draped Blackwood concealed the pain and regrets, a reminder that the pursuit of the unknown could extract a toll too steep to bear. The Strouds, forever changed, moved through the mist-shrouded town, a living testament to the chilling truth that some doors should remain firmly closed and some family secrets were best left buried in the dark recesses of the past. Cindy was an insomniac, finding solace in the glow of her phone during the quiet hours of the night. One evening, while scrolling through social media, she was abruptly kicked out of the app. Perplexed, she attempted to log back in, only to be met with a frustrating string of failed attempts. Annoyed, Cindy went through the usual routine, resetting the password, confirming her email, and jumping through the digital hoops. But the more she tried, the more elusive her access became. Frustration gave way to curiosity, and Cindy turned to the vast expanses of the internet for answers. Amidst the plethora of tech forums and troubleshooting blogs, she stumbled upon a peculiar website. The layout was archaic, reminiscent of a forgotten corner of the internet, and the stories it held were unlike anything she'd ever encountered. Tales of a demon, nameless and sinister, that feasted on the forgotten passwords of its victims. As Cindy delved deeper into the blog, a chill crept down her spine. The creature was said to be ancient, a malevolent force that had evolved alongside the digital age. Its appetite for passwords was insatiable, and its method of consumption was more sinister than anyone could fathom. According to the blog, the demon fed on the forgotten thoughts, the very essence of the password themselves. Once you knew of its existence, you became a target. Panic gripped Cindy as the realization set in. By stumbling upon this forbidden knowledge, she had unwittingly become prey. The room seemed to darken as she read, the air growing heavy with an ominous presence. The demon, they said, could sense the awareness of its victims. Cindy's heart raced as she attempted to close the browser, to rid herself of this cursed knowledge, but it was too late. A sudden, guttural growl echoed through the room, and a shadowy figure materialized in the corner. The demon, an indistinct form of darkness and malice, fixated its piercing gaze on Cindy. Panic seized her as the demon lunged forward, a terrifying embodiment of the digital nightmare she had unearthed. Cindy fought back, desperately trying to recall the password that had led her into this malevolent dance. The demon, however, was relentless. It whispered taunts, mocking her forgetfulness, as its grotesque claws tore through the fabric of reality. In the final moments of her terror, Cindy's consciousness fragmented. The demon devoured not only the password, but also the memory of it, leaving her in a state of eternal forgetfulness. The room returned to its normalcy, the glow of the computer screen casting an eerie light on the lifeless figure of Cindy. The blog, untouched by the passage of the night, remained as a grim reminder of the creature that lurked in the shadows of the forgotten knowledge. As long as the unaware continued to roam the digital realm, the demon slumbered, waiting to devour the thoughts that slipped through the cracks of memory. If you ever forget your account, just create a new one. In the dim glow of his computer screen, Mark found himself immersed in the chaotic world of Fortnite. The sounds of gunfire and explosions echoed in his ears as he navigated the virtual battlefield, determined to secure victory. Little did he know that a more sinister battle was silently raging within him. As Mark's character fought for survival, an inexplicable feeling gnawed at his inside. It was hunger, but not the kind that he was used to. This was different, deeper, more insidious. It wasn't long before the pangs became unbearable, distracting him from the on-screen chaos. His concentration waned as the hunger intensified, growing from a mere discomfort to a relentless consuming force. Ignoring the warning signs, Mark decided to take a break and head downstairs to grab a snack. The house was eerily quiet as he tiptoed past his parents' bedroom, not wanting to wake them up. The hunger, however, seemed to drive him with a singular purpose. Upon reaching the kitchen, Mark was shocked to find it devoid of any food. Had he misjudged his parents' grocery shopping schedule? The emptiness of the refrigerator and the barren pantry mocked him, intensifying the ever-growing hunger within. Panic set in as Mark's search for subsistence became desperate. He scoured the kitchen, opening cabinets and drawers in a futile attempt to find something, anything, to satiate the gnawing hunger that seemed to originate from deep within his core. It was as if his very essence was being devoured. His movement became sluggish, knees weak, arms are heavy. The weight of an unseen force. Mark fell to the cold kitchen floor, clutching his stomach in agony. The pain was no longer just physical. It felt like a manifestation of an insatiable emptiness that threatened to consume him entirely. As Mark crumbled to the kitchen floor, the pain became unbearable. He clutched his stomach, eyes wide with terror. In the throes of agony, he managed to crawl towards the refrigerator one last time, hoping to find something, anything to quell the ravenous hunger that consumed him from within. The fridge creaked open, revealing only cold, empty shelves. Desperation and despair overwhelmed him. With trembling hands, Mark clutched the doorframe, struggling to remain upright. His vision blurred and the edges of his consciousness began to fade. In the darkness, Mark's final thoughts were a whisper of disbelief. How could he be consumed by hunger in a house that should be full of nourishment? As his body succumbed to relentless emptiness, the world went silent. In a small town nestled between towering pine trees, there lived a young man named Bonnie. He was an introverted student who, despite his aversion to socializing, had one passion: academic success. As the end of the school year approached, Bunny found himself teetering on the edge of failure, and the pressure to pass his exams consumed him. One ominous night, as he sat at his desk surrounded by textbooks and notes, Bunny felt an unusual sensation on the top of his head. Brushing it off as a stress-induced paranoia, he continued to study, determined to overcome the impending academic doom. Hours passed, and with every passing minute the sensation intensified. Finally unable to ignore it any longer, Bunny reached up to his scalp. To his horror, he discovered a single hair that had not been there before. This couldn't be possible, he thought, as he meticulously shaved his head every morning. Yet there it was, mocking his obsession with baldness. As the night wore on, Bunny's focus waned, disturbed by the presence of that lone hair he found. To his dismay, he noticed more and more hair sprouting from his scalp. Panic set in as he realized that this loathing for hair was turning into a grotesque transformation. Desperate and exhausted, Bunny decided to call it a night and get some sleep, hoping that he could wake up from this bizarre nightmare. However, the horrors were far from over. In his dreams, Bunny found himself in a surreal forest where gigantic trees emerged from the ground, their roots intertwining and forming an impenetrable maze. He wandered through the shadowy landscape, feeling a strange connection to the towering monolith. Suddenly, he awoke, his room bathed in an otherworldly glow. Bunny felt a strange power surging through his veins. As he stumbled towards the mirror, he saw his reflection. A creature with fur-covered limbs, sharp claws, and the unmistakable snout of a werewolf. Terrified and confused, Bunny realized that the dreams of the colossal trees were not a dream at all. They were a premonition of his transformation. The grotesque metamorphosis that had taken place during the night had turned him into a creature he never imagined. A haunting voice echoed in his mind. You can't mask your true self. The once studious Bunny now roamed the silent town, a creature of the night forever changed by the bizarre and nightmarish turns his life had taken. The tale serves as a chilling reminder that no matter how hard one tries to suppress their true nature, it eventually claws its way to the surface, revealing a reality far more terrifying than any nightmare. Jack's dream was to sail the open seas, and when his uncle left him an old ship in his will, he couldn't believe his luck. Little did he know that the vessel carried a secret. Jack lives in a fishing town and heard tales of a mysterious lighthouse ever since he was young. The lighthouse is rumored to lure ships to their doom. He didn't believe such nonsense, but he always enjoyed the chills running down his spine. One windy day, not far from the village, Jack was pondering about life, thinking about why his uncle left him this, since he and his uncle were never really close, especially not after the passing of his Aunt Evelyn. As he was thinking, he heard a strange yet alluring melody. Wide awake, he realized he didn't recognize the area. Did he stray off course? That's when he saw it. The lighthouse stood tall, its light pulsating like a sinister heartbeat. Jack felt an otherworldly force pulling him in. Ignoring the warnings in his gut, he sailed closer. The air turned thick around him. Shadows danced on the waves, and the haunting melody whispered through the wind. Suddenly, the lighthouse glow intensified, revealing its grotesque mouth. The structure groaned, hungry for more victims. Panic set in as Jack realized the tales were true. Suddenly a storm broke loose, thunder clappering behind the disgusting thing. Jack stood up and ran to the wheel, but it did not budge. Desperation fueled Jack's fight for survival. He pushed and kicked frantically against the wet wood. Click! He just narrowly avoided the lighthouse maw, but the malevolent structure still hungered for him. The sea roared, waves surged, and the lighthouse unleashes an unworldly wail. Suddenly, a gigantic whirlpool formed in front of Jack's ship. He notices ghostly apparitions of the fallen victims before him floating from the gaping hole, forming a circle above the maelstrom. The lighthouse seemed to feed on the lost souls. Feeling defeated, Jack tried to steer out of the current, but it was no help. He thought his life was over. Really? Like this? I'm sorry, Uncle. I should have stayed focused. As a tear fell down his cheek, it landed on the ship. Miraculously, the ship started glowing, but before he could see what was happening, he got pushed against the deck, knocking him out cold.
Gasping for breath, Jack woke up far away from the malevolent beacon. Behind him, nothing but a lighthouse. It has returned to its deceptively calm facade. Though he escaped, Jack couldn't shake the haunting memories and what happened. Sleepless night brought whispers of the lighthouse, calling him back. It hungered for those who had eluded its grasp. Jack, haunted by the ordeal, swore to warn others about the cursed light that devoured dreams and ships alike. To this day, sailors share the tale of Jack and the malevolent lighthouse. Some dismiss it as a mere legend, but those who felt the icy grasp of the sea and heard the haunting melody know better. The lighthouse awaits, a silent predator in the vast expanse, luring dreamers into its clutches, eager to consume the unwary and the brave alike. Jeffrey was a rebellious young man, never one to shy away from voicing his opinion, were the stuff of legends among his colleagues, but they also made him somewhat of a thorn in the side of his employers. The peculiar behavior of his current employer, a shadowy organization known only as the Waste Disposal Unlimited, had recently raised Jeffrey's suspicions. Over the past few months, he had noticed a marked increase in the frequency and secrecy of his late-night shifts. His boss, a stern and enigmatic man named Mr. Henderson, was always evasive when questioned about the detail, signing confidentiality agreements and strict protocols. What bothered Jeffrey more than the lack of information was the sudden and inexplicable delay in his paychecks. He had always been paid promptly and fairly, but lately his checks were coming in weeks, sometimes even months late. When he approached Mr. Henderson about this, he was met with vague excuses and promises of a swift resolution that never materialized. The secrecy and delayed payments only fueled Jeffrey's curiosity. He found himself constantly wondering what kind of trash he was transporting, what secrets it held, and why his employer was so determined to keep it under wraps. His mind was filled with wild theories and half-formed conspiracies, but there was no way to confirm or deny them. The mystery surrounding his job became an obsession for Jeffrey. He found himself constantly scanning the trash he collected, searching for clues or inconsistencies. He even started keeping a journal to document his observations and suspicions. One fateful night, as Jeffrey was cruising down the highway, his mind lost in his latest conspiracy theories, a loud bang jolted him from his thoughts. Initially thinking it was a toppled pellet, he ignored it and moved on. But there it was again. Knock, knock, knock. "What the fuck?" he said. "What is going on there?" The persistent and unsettling sound sent shivers down his spine. He decided to investigate, pulling over to a secluded parking lot. The impossible lock on the truck's rear door presented a real challenge, but Jeffrey was not one to back down from a challenge. With a determined glint in his eyes, he retrieved his trusty bolt cutters and skillfully breached the barrier. Cautiously, he opened the door, his heart pounding in his chest. The stench that wafted out was unlike anything Jeffrey had ever encountered. It wasn't the familiar odor of decaying food that permeated his truck's interior, but something far more sinister. As he peered inside, he heard faint groans echoing through the darkness. 10 pellets of white bags, stacked neatly according to the papers, lined the truck bed. But Jeffrey's curiosity was piqued by the source of those unsettling sounds. Ignoring his better judgment, he climbed into the truck. Using his pallet truck, he attempted to move the first pallet, bracing himself for the resistance of the often subpar equipment he was forced to use. The pellets stubbornly refused to budge, causing Jeffrey to wonder if some strange liquid from the trash had seeped onto the floor. Just as he was about to give up, the pellet suddenly slid forward, revealing a horrifying sight. The pellets behind it were no longer stacked, but instead spread all over the floor. In the dim light, Jeffrey could make out a pile of white bags, their contents obscured by a thick crimson liquid. A sudden movement from within the pile startled Jeffrey, causing a stack of bags to topple over. His flashlight, now illuminated, pierced the darkness, revealing a pool of blood that stretched across the truck's bed. A wee groan emerged from beneath the bags. His curiosity turned to primal fear as he imagined the gruesome contents of the bags. With a surge of adrenaline, he lunged forward, determined to uncover the source of the sound. A wee groan emerged from beneath the bags. As he pulled back the bags, a small figure lay curled up in the corner, its eyes wide with terror. Whatever it was not human. He seemed to study his composure, whilst revealing a line of sharp red-stained teeth. Before Jeffrey could react, the creature lunged at him, its teeth bared, and its eyes burning with a fierce intensity. Jeffrey, who didn't hesitate, grabbed the creature by the legs and hurled the creature against the truck's wall, its form slumping to the ground. Curb stomping the creature's head in, Jeffrey watched in disgust. Blood splattered across the already bloody truck, and Jeffrey's hand, now covered in blood, throbbed with pain. With his hand heavily bleeding, he jumped out of the truck, not even caring about what was going on. He wanted nothing to do with this. He closed the truck and drove towards the address as fast as possible. Arriving to the location, they noticed the chain of the door missing. After a long and heated argument, he got fired on the spot and mysteriously disappeared a week later. Whatever you do, don't ask questions at work.